I drink Dr. Pepper, don't you know? It's the original taste that I love so. Yes, listen, I love when Dr. Pepper shows up in the season. I wish she would show up sooner. I really wish she would have been the one talking to Chris versus Chris talking to Pastor Cal, though he did a good job. I'm getting beside myself. What's up? How you doing, Ray of Sunshines? I am your girl, Talisa Ray, lifestyle coach. We are reviewing Married at First Sight, season number 12, episode number 13, unanswered questions. Honey, we still got unanswered questions. I feel like the whole episode was about getting answers to the questions that have not been answered. Unanswered questions. And I feel like we are all still needing answers. I mean, not about Paige and Chris, but about a lot of other people. So let's get into it, shall we? So we're going to start with Virginia and Erik, and Virginia's sister comes to visit. They haven't seen one another in a while. Honey, quiet as it's kept. They ain't even been on the phone. Makes me think if Erik has really been like patrolling the shit that Virginia is doing, that she isn't able to speak to her sister as often as she would like. I'm just speculating, pulling shit from the air, but it sounds good to me. Well, you know what? Virginia's like, my sister is not going to hold anything back. No holds barred. She's going to tell the truth if the situation warrants it. And so she's really happy to see her. And when she says, well, how are things going? You know, everything's going well, except for we, you know, are fighting about the living situation. He wants me to move in. I want to wait till my lease is up, etc., etc., etc. And it sounds like the sister kind of agrees with Virginia because Virginia hasn't been in many relationships. And, you know, it's just the whole thing. And you know what? She knows her sister better than anybody. She's been around her entire life. So there's that. Okay, if y'all hear that smoke detector in the background, it is killing me. I need to change the battery, okay? Yes. Well, Erik tells the kids, let's go outside and let's walk Rocky. The sister say, is it safe to send my kid out with them? Is it all right? Listen, Virginia was supposed to immediately say yes. She was like, I don't know. Well, he is good with kids. Like, it's not about whether or not he's good with kids. It's about, do you trust him? How do you feel about him being around your two nephews, my two sons? Not necessarily if he's good with kids. Is he going to let them run out and get hit by a car? Is he going to try to run off and kidnap them? Is he going to keep an eye on them? How do you feel? How do you trust him? That's not important. Because when he walks out the door, it was pretty much like, let's get down to the nitty gritty, sis. Let's talk about what's really bothering me. I think Erik is controlling. He's a little bit controlling and doesn't want me to hang out with my friends and get drunk. That's not what she said, but that's what was implied, right? In addition, she talked about him wanting kids right away. And, you know, Virginia don't want them right away. Number one, we know because she has a relationship with alcohol and that doesn't work well with children. And number two, she's scared. But what she said that was important was the sister. You want to make sure to build a relationship. He wants kids in 2 years. Y'all just met yesterday. So you should build a foundation is what the sister agrees with. I agree with that too, with anybody, not just Married at First Sight. If you get married, listen, take some time and enjoy your spouse, because when them kids come, it's over. It's no more. You can forget any kind of intimacy. Well, not any kind, but the good kind where it could be all over the house everywhere. You can forget anything like that, okay? Enjoy being newlyweds. So here's what we kind of we're waiting on when they go and they sit with the experts. Virginia is sitting with Pastor Cal, and he asked her, tell us something good about the relationship. You know, and she talks about this chemistry and connection, and that how when things are good, they're good. When they're bad, they're bad. Yeah, it's what it is. And then though, he said, well, what is it that you have issue with? What do you need answers about? And she said, listen, I need to know, is he really dead set on these kids? And if I don't have kids, is he really going to be walking out the door? He keeps giving me an ultimatum about these damn kids. What are we going to do about that? How do I go about that? Because I'm scared really to be a mom. Number one, I think I'm going to be a bad mom. And I'm afraid to be pregnant. I mean, listen. Once you have a baby, once you have that baby growing in your body, you realize what a miracle it is. And you kind of change your perception, but it does change your body. And if you like looking young and 26 for the rest of your life, honey, listen, start working out now so that when you get pregnant, you can continue to work out and your body will bounce back. Otherwise, you'll be looking at like the rest of us with fupas and shit. Like, but I'm fine with a fupa. You hear me? Fine. If I could afford a tummy tuck, I probably would get one at 40, whatever I am. She says that she doesn't want to mess kids up, and you don't know what you don't know. Like, you don't know that you're gonna mess up your child. Like, what if I tell them something wrong? What if I lead them astray? Pastor Cal makes it plain and simple. You're gonna mess them up. You're gonna mess up. There is no rule book to raising children. You're doing the best you can with the resources that you have. It's pretty much what he says, and tells her, listen, just because you're being mindful right now tells me that you're going to make an extraordinary mother, because you're going in conscious about the behavior and the way you treat your child and the care for your children. So that's a big deal. And I would have to agree with him, because I'm gonna just be honest, that wasn't stuff I was thinking about, and I wasn't playing. My children weren't playing. They were like, oops, there it goes. Like, that was really what happened. They popped up and I was pregnant and having babies. Like, what? He also urged Virginia to share her thoughts on marriage, as well as have him share what he actually thinks marriage is, because we know he thinks he is the end-all be-all knowledge and wisdom on marriage, because he's done it before. But like he said, he has a certain paradigm where he's going off of a previous marriage, and also on what he thinks he wants things to look like, a certain paradigm. So you really need to ask him what marriage looks like for him. Define that for me. How does it look? And then you also need to provide yours too. I think that's me adding it, but I'm adding that. So we see Erik with Dr. Pepper. Erik always, to me, seems like he has something up his sleeve. Like when he's talking, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to convince you of something. I don't know, but it always feels crafty is the word I'm looking for. So she asks him about, you know, what are the highs of the relationship? And of course he gives that same shit about the instant connection and chemistry and how it feels like their normal life, blah, 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 blah. You know the shit we've been seeing, that they've been saying since day one almost. And he says, you know, but there are some bad things. Sometimes there, you know, some blow ups. She said, tell me about them. And they talk about Rocky and how, you know, she got upset about the dog, and it's her dog, and leave my fucking dog alone and keep him out your mouth. And Dr. Pepper said, what's wrong with that? Why do you have to take party in this dog? Why do you have to take ownership like he is part yours because you're married? She said, look at it like this. If she came in with an actual child, you're not gonna run in talking about you got half. Even though that is what you would be doing, you would allow the child to warm up to you. And then you would start adding in, you know, your discipline, etc. Right? This is me adding, inferring. And it made perfectly good sense to him once she said that. Like, so what's the big deal? Why do you have to be a dog dad? Why do you have to be Rocky's dog dad? Like, and I really thought too, like, to myself, like, this isn't even worth an argument. Leave her dog alone. Leave her dog alone. And then once you relax and Virginia starts to relax, guess what'll happen? The dog will relax and start to trust you more. Listen, leave that lady alone. Leave that lady alone about Rocky. He then went on to say how he asked for someone who was independent, and that she's almost too independent for him. And I was like, is there a thing? Is that a thing? Ladies, I know you probably like, ain't no such thing as being too independent. I'm gonna tell you, like I always say, a man needs to feel needed. We want to feel desired for the most part. We can't say all men, but men like to feel needed, right? And if I need you and you're too independent, you don't need me, what are we doing? It's almost like he's saying she puts her friends before me. She's always going out with her friends and hanging out with her friends, and never has time for me. She said to him, one of my favorite C's, compromise is in order. Maybe ask for one weekend out the month. That is just for you and her, instead of her going all the time with her friends. But then this is where it got real good. When I tell you I love when Dr. Pepper does this, like, she does not mince words, but she does it very professionally. She said, do you think it's okay for your wife, your young wife, to be drinking the way that she does? And he agreed wholeheartedly. I think that we all agree wholeheartedly. And she went on to say to him, that's part of probably why when you have arguments and blow-ups, they're so bad because it's either you're drinking or you've come off from drinking, so it causes an issue. Try having these serious conversations when no one has been drinking or recovering from a bender. Hopefully it'll increase the communication between the two of you, is what she pretty much says. And listen, Erik's like, yeah, she's not gonna like that. And she said, you listen, it's an approach. Make sure you say it in a way that is received. All things said out of loving kindness can be received appropriately. You can be receptive for this. So they get together and now it's time to share. And you know, I think Virginia's nervous about her part, but goes ahead and asks, kind of deflects and says, okay, so what did you guys talk about? And he, first off, she said, leave Rocky alone. Period. The end. However, we need to start, I think it, hold on. However, we need to consider that when we have discussions that require us to be open and honest and vulnerable, that alcohol shouldn't be involved. We shouldn't be drinking, and it should not be after the recovery portion of it. Honey, Virginia didn't like it. She said, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. And I kind of think, though, it's always about his delivery, right? Even though she probably still would have felt that way because she has an addiction, a real addiction. I think that if he had delivered it in a different way, it would have been received in a different way. It didn't seem like the recommendation that Dr. Pepper had provided, gently, gingerly, with compassion, with kindness. It just seemed like straightforward, yeah, alcohol shouldn't be here. Like, so I think that that might be why she received it wrong. But then again, she has a relationship with alcohol that she is not ready to get rid of. It's that simple. So when it's Virginia's turn to share, Virginia says, listen, one of the things is, what if we don't have children? What if I can't have children? You keep talking about this ultimatum. He was like, I don't like that word. He says it's a deal breaker. Same difference, Erik. Play on words, ultimatum, deal breaker. You know, she says, what if? You just gonna leave? He was like, well, I really want children, but I'm not gonna leave you if you have these issues. If this is a problem, that's not what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna say, for once, he was a little more compassionate and was like, I think you'll be a good mom. Like, I thought that he did well at being compassionate for once, because sometimes he is not. So he says he wants to bring up one more thing, and it's about hanging out. If we can compromise and I have one weekend. And she said, yeah, I'm with that if we plan it. If we plan it ahead of time, I'm with it. We can plan for next month now, and I won't book anything on that date. And then he says to her, you know, you're gonna have to prioritize me sometimes and cancel things for me. And she's like, I don't like that. I don't like that. If I schedule my time out a week in advance, and if I schedule my time and you come and ask me to cancel the plans that I have, I'm not gonna like it. I'm gonna have an attitude. How did y'all feel about that? Do you think that she was right, or do you think that he was right in saying that you have to make time for me? Listen, he also went on to say, I'm a pilot. I can't give you my schedule a week ahead of time. It's not feasible, not reasonable. You're being unfair. Sometimes you're gonna have to choose me and tell them you can't make it. And listen, I'm wondering why you always gotta hang out with your friends anyway. Didn't you want a husband? That's right, you wanted a husband that would party with you. You wanted you a frat boy. So I don't know, you guys let me know down below in the comments what you think were all the questions answered, or am I tripping? Okay, let's talk about Briana and Vincent. Honey, when we see them in the house on the couch, and they are going over their financial budget. These are things that you have to have conversations about in order to make wise decisions about your choices in relationship. She was absolutely right. Finances is one of the things that is important to discover, and is also one of the reasons that relationships end. So we need to really sit here and do this budget. And I just want you to know, Vince was flabbergasted at her expenses, like her $250 braids. Definitely a black woman, okay? That's exactly how that goes. In addition, her waxes, I mean, do you want her looking like a hairy monster down there? Her personal maintenance was $400 a month. And I have to say this. They are going over their budget as they are when they came in collectively. So yes, it's gonna be a shocker. Like her $400 spending had $300 to $400 spending habit on clothes. it is definitely going to be a shocker. It's going to make you feel like, oh, wait, huh? What's happening? But they're melding two houses. So he was not only shocked, but really like annoyed and disgusted at her like spending. So they talk about like the date budget, and he says, so as for her clothes, she ended up compromising and saying $150 to $200 a month. And then he says, okay, the budget for our dates is $200. And she was like, $200 a month, that's it? That's one date. Now, these are the same conversations that Amani and Woody had, but it was reversed. It was Woody saying, we need more than $200, and I have a $400 a month habit on clothes. Like, it was Woody and not Amani. So it's the same thing. He increased it, you know, for appeasing, but we know that they can find dates that are free, walking, window shopping, hiking, biking, things that are really inexpensive. A lot of stuff you can do in the city, in your city, in my city, that is inexpensive. Ice cream dates, walks in the park, like anything to spend time, some kind of quality time, getting to know one another, is considered a date. So when they finished the calculations, the budget was in excess of $9,000. I think it was like $9,100 for the two of them when they combined all of their stuff. Their maintenance, their cars, their insurance, you know, everything. Insurance, car maintenance, car payments, anything that there was, they combined it. I really feel like they have come to like a crossroads. Finances is their crossroad, because she feels like, you know what, I want you to court me. I'm with her though. He should court her. They should go out on dates. They should be intentional about that. But he's all like, I want to buy a house. So I think that we should stay, once we get a house, we should be able to stay home and, you know, do all the things at home. No, sir, that's not a date. That's at home. You're going to have to take your wife out. You're going to have to court her. And the reason being, number one, is that you hardly even know her. She wants to have experiences. You guys are going to have to figure out, how do we come together collectively on this? I also feel like, I mean, if any of you own a house, right? You know that when you were in the process of buying the house, there were things that you sacrificed for the time being so that you can save money and you can budget it and live like you were in that house. So I understand that that's important. But it's also important how to figure out how to court your wife. So they're going to have to come to some kind of happy medium. He was really disgusted the way he was side-eyeing her. I thought he was thinking all kind of stuff in his head. Like, oh, I think this is the thing that's going to blow it up. That's how I was feeling. And she was nervous laughing because, you know, shit. These is my expenses. Well, Vince sees Pastor Cal, sits with Pastor Cal, and pretty much says, you know, how they get along. We see that. But then it says that they have a challenge in communicating. That she likes things a certain way. She's particular about things. And he says that he has, you know, a short attention span and that he needs to fix that. You know, honestly, I'm with Pastor Cal. He was nodding and smiling at the fact that you know that what your issue is. You're aware of it, so that means you're going to work on it continuously and move forward. So I was in agreement, like, well, at least he knows that he has a short attention span, but he didn't say nothing about that short fuse that he has, or the short temper that he has, or when things, you know, aren't in alignment, how he feels like he gonna erupt. He didn't say nothing about that though. When he asked, are there any unanswered questions, he said about her waking him up. You know, I need to rest. I'm driving all day. When I come home, I'm tired and I want to rest. She wants me to get up early, and I think that she feels like it's lazy when in fact it is about rest and recovery so that I can be better. And what it boils down to is that Vince wants to please her, and Pastor Kyle let it be known, listen, pleasing your wife does not mean you have to do everything that she says, and learn how to say no. Put your foot down. Be a little bit selfish. Take the time that you need for yourself. I'm not any good to anybody if I'm cranky, I'm tired, I'm upset, I'm unhappy. Those are the things that they need to talk about. That's what he needs to share with his wife. Be a little selfish. Not selfish in a negative way, but selfish as in self-care. I say that too all the time. All the time. It's important. So then we see Bree talking to Dr. Pepper, and Bree is excited about it. Like, she can't wait to see, you know, what they say and what their take is on their relationship. Blah, 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 blah. And you know, she says the same thing. What are the high points of your relationship? She says that it's that Vince is kind and he's caring. He's joyous. Like, he makes her happy. He makes her feel safe and like feels all giddy on the inside. You know, that he knows how to bring her out of the funk. Well, what are your unanswered questions though, boo? Let's talk about that. Let's forget about the good stuff. Let's talk about the shit that irks the fuck out of you. She said, I want to know why financial stability is so important to him. I said, I know that that's not how she meant to say that. I know that that's not how she meant to say it. I mean, because financial stability is important to all of us. I don't think any of us want to be flying by the seat of our pants, living paycheck to paycheck, or under the bridge. Financial stability is everything. Maybe her choice of words were wrong, and it just rubbed me like, girl, is you crazy? And we know that he came, like, you should already be able to ascertain, deduce what's wrong. You know where he came from. You know that, you know, they weren't they weren't poverty stricken, but they weren't in the upper echelon either, right? They were probably barely middle class. They were sharing bed. Like, we can actually deduce ourselves that he had a rough childhood, that it was a struggle, and that's not what he wants. And for people who live like that, who have been in the gutter, have been, you know, sharing the bed, sharing clothes, having hand-me-downs being talked about, you know the routine. They seem to have a different kind of drive and value the dollar differently than someone who may have had a middle-class upbringing. Y'all agree with me or no? Let me know down below in the comments. She says that she wants to enjoy the fruits of her labor and he just wants to save his budget for the future. Why can't you do both? You know, she talks about she has a savings account, etc., etc. So why can't you do both? And furthermore, why can't you guys figure out how not to have this kind of financial stress? Like, listen, I'm a believer. I know some of y'all don't believe in this, but I'm a believer that you get to still have your own personal account, and that there is a shared house account that is specifically for household stuff. Mortgages, groceries, utilities, anything for the functioning of the house. You should be responsible for your own car note and insurance. You should be responsible for your own cell phone unless you guys are on the same plan, but you have to figure that thing out. But then she shared something with us which was a little surprising, because I don't ever remember her saying that she had high blood pressure and that's the reason she's scared to have a child. Because we know that especially during labor, that your blood pressure will elevate. So she's probably fearful of like strokes and heart attacks, and even because you do carry more than one person and you got two heartbeats and bloods and all of that running through you, right? Two whole what's it called? I can't think of it, but two systems, two full human systems running through your body. You are going to have a higher blood pressure. But the thing is, they have high-risk doctors for that. That's what they do. You go to a high-risk doctor, and because they know you have high blood pressure, guess what? You would have a scheduled cesarean. But who are we to tell you what to do with your body? That's number one. No man should be saying what they want you to do with your body. He already said he wanted 4 kids, but he ain't birthing not 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them. So she also says that that's a conversation that they have not had and that they need to have. And I'm in total agreement with that. So then it's time to share. They get together. So they talk about finances, and she asks him pretty much, what's up? What's your reasoning behind the structure that you want for our financial stability? That's not the words she used. I didn't write them down, but I was like, he says that he wants to be more strategic and wants a different life than before. That he's no longer single. They're not single. He doesn't need all the flashy cars and all of that stuff because he's done it. That now he wants the married life. And so for him, what they should be asking, what does the married life look like? That might be one of the questions that the experts need to ask in the questionnaire, because if for her, married life is adventurous and fun, and for him, it's staying at home and watching movies and looking at these damn kids run around the house, then guess what? They aren't aligned. She said to him, I want the adventures. I want us to do things together, which includes like hiking and biking and stuff. And so I'm glad that she mentioned, you know, the free stuff that they can do. But then it was his term, and he said, you know, what's the issue with me sleeping in? And can we compromise? She said that when you wake up earlier, you have more of the day, we can do things together, etc., etc. And he said, so what is the compromise? Because I be tired. I've been running around. You an engineer, you ain't running around. Not like I am. I'm driving these cars as an auto broker from here to Timbuktu, but fuck Egypt, and you want me to, you won't let me rest for a little longer. My body is exhausted, right? I'm an entrepreneur, so I have to do it all on my own. And her compromise is for him to go to bed earlier. That's what she said. For him to go to bed earlier, and to get off of his phone, because the phone, you know, that's why you can't sleep. You be on your phone and your mind can't stop. Now that might be true, those two things are true, but that is not a compromise. That is a suggestion of what she would want him to do, a recommendation. Will you? Pretty much what she's telling him she wants him to do, because he said to her, like, that's not a compromise. So what's the compromise? And she was like, yeah, you go to bed earlier. That's not a compromise. That's not a compromise. Let the man sleep in a couple days a week. Maybe not every day if it's a bother for you and you feel like you doing everything by yourself. Okay, but let him sleep in a couple days a week. I don't see the problem with it. I think that she's being a little bit unrealistic about that. Like, I know for me, I would not be able to handle somebody trying to wake me up. I want to sleep. Let me sleep. My body says rest, and that's what I do so that I can be my best self. Y'all, let me know down below in the comments what you think. Do they still have unanswered questions? She did start, before I guess you should hold off of that, because she did also tell him how she was afraid to give childbirth and why. You know, I wrote down she should definitely talk to an OBGYN when they're ready about what her options are, right? She said that he looks frustrated at it, but he looks disgusted and really like he wants to go. Vince said that this could be a deal breaker. He wants on his deathbed for his children to be there. He don't want to not have no kids, so this might be the thing that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back. So now is a good time for me to ask, are there any unanswered questions? I think that there are. He, as in Vince, did bring up briefly that, you know, she's a bit controlling. That would be an unanswered question, right? He also brought up the sleep thing. There's no resolution for that if that's really an unanswered question. For Briana, she should have been talking about his temper and how to work around his emotional immaturity when it shows up. Like, that's an unanswered question. Like, and then the children thing, that's an unanswered question. If we're answering questions, nothing is being answered. Now, they did say, like we all know to be true, that it takes time for answers and things to develop. It's not going to happen overnight. But there should be some road to it. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, y'all. But let's talk about Ryan and Clara and see if they got questions answered. We didn't see nothing but them with the experts. So we saw Ryan with Dr. Pepper. Whoo, child. Dr. Pepper, she asked what's the highs. And you know, the whole instant connection and magnetic. And then when she says, are there any challenges? He says, I can't think of any. You can't, Ryan? You cannot think of any challenges. None. Not one. And in Dr. Pepper's personal confession, she said, a lot of people see their relationships as roses when roses have thorns. It's in a nutshell. Dr. Pepper says to him, listen, be willing to talk about the tough stuff. Not just the flowery stuff, because you couldn't expect a better connection. But stuff like your spiritual journey. For instance, we know that both your parents are pastors. And do you want to raise your children in a Christian household? Like, that's a question that you have to ask. He says that they've, you know, talked about it a little bit. He knows her background, but not in, you know, in depth. Finances, spirituality, infidelity are the things that are the top things that causes marriages to end. So far, each of these, oh, and children, politics. We see all of these issues in one of these couples. One of these couples carry each of these issues. That's what I should say. So then, then Dr. Pepper said, so, yeah, are you guys still waiting to have intercourse? Ryan was visibly uncomfortable with the question. Visibly uncomfortable. Visibly, like, whoo, he got to fidgeting just a smidge. You could see it on his face, like, oh, shit. I didn't think I was going to be called to the table. He says yes, and Dr. Pepper says, well, I want you to think about how that makes her feel. Does it make her feel rejected? Unwanted? You need to ask her how it makes her feel and go deeper with it. Like, really ask. She also recommended for him to discuss what his emotional needs look like. If you're waiting for your emotional needs to be met before you have intercourse, share with her what those look like. And I know that some people don't want to share because they don't want you to, I don't want you to tailor your attitude, your thoughts and stuff to what I want so that you can get what you want. They want it to be organic, but I'm gonna be honest, if I don't know what you want, I don't know how to give it to you, or if it's something that I'm able to provide. The end, period. Like, what? When we see Clara with Pastor Cal. Oh shit. Clara is just like, you know, I'm in a fairy tale land. I'm so surprised that it's going so well. And when he said, if you rate your relationship, how would you rate it 1 out of 10? She said, on a scale of 1 out of 10, how would you rate it? She said a 10 out of 10. Was I the only one looking sideways? Because, baby, it's not a 10 out of 10 if you are sexually frustrated. It is not a 10 out of 10 if you cannot express how you feel about your needs not being met. It is not a 10 out of 10 if you feel like Ryan is being selfish because you are servicing him and there is nothing happening for you in return. It is not a 10 out of 10 if a conversation is not being had without him being goofy and silly or him pushing back shit because you asking questions about when y'all gonna do the do. It's not a 10 out of 10. It's unrealistic, and that is exactly what Pastor Cal said. No relationship is perfect, and it can't be a 10 out of 10 unless you go through some things and recover from it. It can't be this great if you can't communicate your thoughts and ideas about sex that you're not having. I added that because he then asked, oh, hold on, I skipped the whole thing. She was like, it's the best relationship I've ever had. Houseway. Really? This is the best relationship you've ever had? I guess so. If you only had sex once, three times a year, the last relationship you were in, I guess this is good because he's communicative, or what? She also says, you know what, I love him. You know, because, you know, that he's never said I love you. And, but that she loves him and doesn't want to say anything and doesn't want to express herself for fear of, you know, lack of commitment or him running away. Because, you know, she knows him well enough that Pastor Cal says, you know, I don't want you not to express how you feel out of fear. Because all it's doing is creating more insecurity. And your relationship really can't be a 10 out of 10. And it made me think about, like, you're saying that this relationship is so great. I think a relationship is great where you can be vulnerable and open, right? And you do create a safe space, right? Like, I think that that's a wonderful thing. They don't have that. But in addition, when creating that space and I share things with you, it doesn't feel so good if they're turned against me, right? So if I tell him I love you, this is her, if I express that I love you and then he's all like, how, why, and then holds it against her like she's moving too fast, you regret sharing. So, piece of advice, when somebody trusts you enough with their feelings and to be open and honest and vulnerable with you, try not to turn it on them. Try not to make them feel like they shouldn't have shared with you. Like, that is like one of the worst things that you could possibly do to someone who cares for you. Anyway, I digress. We found out that he had been dating for months and even years without ever having sexual intercourse. Listen, what I know to be true, because Pastor Kyle was over there shocked and appalled like we was. But was we? Yeah, some of y'all think he's virgin. Some of y'all think something else is going on. But what I know to be true is that even in my days I was abstaining from sex as a believer, right? And be dating a man that was abstaining with me. We made a commitment together that that's something that we weren't going to do. Still couldn't keep his hands off me. He would have to leave because we would almost cross the line in one form or fashion. So a man that wants you is going to want to touch all on you. It is going to be hard, and it's going to be very tempting to cross that boundary, but they aren't even getting there. So I'm kind of starting to agree with a lot of people. Some of the people on the Married at First Sight Coalition, that's on Sundays, Little Black Book 91's channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, say that he don't like her. Kojo is one of them. So is Glenn. They say, oh, and Tommy. They all the fellas say, no, he don't like her. I would think he didn't like me either. Because if you were attracted to me in any kind of way, you'd be trying. You'd be like, whoo, this is hard. Who don't touch me? Baby, y'all let me know if you agree with me down below in the comments. If you don't, let me know that too. So when they get together, because it's time to discuss the stuff, they talk about religion, and Clara says it off the top. I don't want to force my children to have to go to church. I want them to be able to make the decision for themselves. If they decide they want to explore the things, they can. That is not what Ryan wants. That is probably also part of the reason that he is not crossing the line. And you can think about this too. Maybe he wants to make it easy to get an annulment. If I have sex with you, I have to get a divorce. If I don't consummate, I can get an annulment. And then, you know, she's like, oh, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. No, the fuck we won't. If I want to raise my children in a Christian household, you aren't going to be in for that if you don't want to force them to go to church. I get when they get older, you start to say, okay, you can explore. Giving them options. You know, being forward thinking. You know, but as you're growing up, train up a child as they should go, and you know, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get old they won't depart from it, right? So I mean, we teach them our values and belief system, and as they get older that evolves and that changes into whatever it is for themselves. So what you gonna do when your 5-year-old say, I don't want to go to church? You gonna just say, okay? I'm just asking. I'm asking. Ryan said that this isn't what he wants. It's not what he was looking for. Why would they set him up with her? Then he asks about sex. How do you feel about sex? How do you feel about us not having sex, rather? She says to him, I'm sexually frustrated, but I respect your boundaries, or I respect you. What did she say? I respect you. I don't know. I wrote down, this is her time to share what you are feeling, how it makes you feel to service him. This is where you set that boundary to not touch him until it is reciprocated. This is at that time. This is the time. What are we doing? And why? So this is way longer. So this is way longer than I wanted it to be. I'm looking at every time I have to hit the record button because the time runs out. I'm all like, oh, I'm going to have to delete some of this. Nevertheless, I don't know why we had to see them, but we saw Paige and we saw Chris. We first saw Paige with Dr. Pepper. And she wanted to do unanswered questions to help her move on. Okay, girl. Dr. Pepper shares that, you know, they were a good match on paper, and who he presented himself to be during the interview said that you guys would be a good match. I'm sorry that he's not, and that he is a serious narcissist. It's all about him. Everything, the world revolves around him, and that is a psychologist saying that he is a narcissist. That's not us regular folk out here diagnosing people like we got the degree. She's the one saying, but we can see it with our own eyes, that he is definitely a narcissist. She also tells her, listen, don't blame yourself, because that's part of who he was, right? That's part of who he is. She said, you know, what was the point of the meeting with Mercedes? None of us know what the point of the meeting with Mercedes was. Like, none of us know. But Dr. Pepper says the purpose of it was so that it could hurt her. And just be sure to keep the boundaries that you're setting, right? Don't go back from the boundaries that you're setting. And that could be true, because hold on, this dude, Paige is just like, I just don't understand why he signed up for it. Why did he sign up for this if he wasn't really about it, and if this isn't really what he wanted to do? Why waste my time? Like, you know, week 1 in and you're out. Like, why would you do that? It was a waste of time. So let's talk about Pastor Cal and Chris. He was supposed to meet Pastor Cal at 7. Homeboy didn't show up till probably close to 8 o'clock. They showed us that it was 7:43, and it was probably like 5 minutes, 7 minutes after, which is close to 8 o'clock in the evening. He doesn't have any respect for people's time. He doesn't value anybody's time, and people should wait on him. When he walked in the door, I would have been like, we're wrapping this up. Sorry that we can't talk to you, sir. So when they get in, they get right into it. Chris is so cocky and condescending, like he is God's gift to the world, to women. He thinks he is the prize. He thinks that his face is asymmetrical, because he had the nerve to say that if he saw Paige on the street, in a bar, or at church, he would not have hollered at her, because he is not attracted to her physically in her face, her facial features. He is not attracted to pretty much what he's saying, her African features, her wide nose, her big mouth, her dark skin. Like, maybe he didn't say the dark skin, but I really feel like that's all part of it too. Y'all could get mad at me and tell me that down below in the comments, but I really feel like that's how fucking shallow he is. Because Paige is beautiful, though her voice irritates me. Like, I don't understand. I hate her voice. I hate the solemn, monotone, trying to be calm and collected voice that she uses. I hate it. But I don't not like her as a person, right? I don't think that she deserved any of this, and he thinks that he's fine. She should have been hollering, he ain't attractive either. And I really hope on the reunion show that's what she says. So Chris, you think you a prize? Brother, look in the mirror. That's what I really want her to say when the reunion hits, because this is stupid to me. I'm not attracted to her face. The fuck? Even though we knew that already. Him to vocalize it literally and say her face. He's so damn shallow that when Pastor Cal asked, well, what other things did you like about her? What else did you see that you liked about her? What else didn't you like about her? All he could think about was her face. That was it. He didn't even get to know her. And you know, he said, Pastor Cal said, you said when we asked you what you wanted, and you said you wanted someone that was a power couple. We asked you about the looks, and you said, oh, whatever. He had the nerve to say, it's a million different other women in here. Queen, black queen, white queen, Asian queen. Listen, all these beautiful women, and you choose her. Disrespectful. Pastor Cal says, okay, listen, check this out. You shallow little twit. That's not what he said, but he said, check this out. Listen, what I want you to take away from this is to learn something for yourself. You've been engaged a couple times and neither of those worked. You were married and that didn't work. Reevaluate what it is that you want out of a relationship. Then he had the nerve to be like, he did the marriage to the best of his ability. I mean, when I say Pastor Cal was just as flabbergasted as the rest of us was, listening to this fool, and I mean FOOL, listening to him, he's such an idiot. I mean, he's laughing and smirking and like, and then at the end pretty much says that, you know, they talk about Mercedes getting a Mercedes, and oh, well, she could have came with us. Like, pretty much says, like, you know what, I want to buy her a house too. Pastor Cal say, you stupid. Yeah, you want to get all these things, but wait till the baby gets here. And because you're married, don't you think that that's something that should have been considered? He's stupid. No. All he's thinking about is himself. Narcissist. selfishness. The world revolves around me and my needs. Pastor Kyle was like, you know, this shows me how little you cared about her. How little you care about her feelings. He says, I don't know where this conversation is going. I already said I want to be done with it. I just want to move on. I said, you fucking asshole. It's not enough that you've already embarrassed her and shamed her on national TV, which of course Dr. Pepper had pointed out to Paige, right? Like, that wasn't enough. You had to just continue to be disrespectful. Come in there and really just put her face in the mud and say it was her face that you weren't attracted to. That you didn't give a fuck about her feelings and what she was doing. And you know, so Paige, she got that wig back on, I see too. I want to say that. She got that wig back on. She walking through that, they need to do a different color foundation on that lace. But that's not the issue. The issue is the wig when it was in that last confessional was parted down the middle and it was looking a hot mess because it was hot and it was sweating. It was sticking to her head. Nonetheless, we see her walking through the apartment, packing her stuff up. Talk about, you know, the man that never went there. You should have never wanted him to come there anyway. But I'm so glad that that's over with. I'm so glad that that's done and over with. I hope that we don't see them anymore in this capacity. I hope we only see her with the groups because we know he's not going to be with the fellas, right? All right, let's talk about our last couple. Let's talk about Jacob and Haley. Them two we just saw with the experts, which is great. They really could use the help of the experts. Maybe. So Jacob sat with Pastor Cal. Like, I wouldn't date Jacob, but I like Jacob as a person. And Jacob is going to make someone a really great husband. If they don't work out, I feel like, well, I feel like I don't know what the fuck they finna do now. But I feel like if they don't work out, that there will be women knocking down his doorstep. And maybe after watching himself on the TV, that he will see where he's gone wrong and may have really quick success with finding a relationship. And 38 is not too old. 40 is not too old. People are still 50 getting married. I like that Jake said that he was open to receive the criticism and any advice that Pastor Cal had. Like anything that would help him. He asked her, well, what are the best things about the relationship? And he was like, I'm physically attracted to her. The end. Because she's not letting me in any other way. Outside of that, we have nothing. And he shared, I feel like that she doesn't want to connect with me. So there's that. Are there any unanswered questions? And the first thing he said was, I would want to ask her, what made you pull back in Vegas? Okay. He keeps going back to Vegas. They showed us a clip and, you know, she says that she needs a deeper connection, that she doesn't know anything about him. But it was 3 or 4 days, so you wouldn't know anything about him. He knows that it was the sex, and we've been saying it for the longest, and he wants to hear her say it was sexually we are incompatible. He also said he wants to know, well, what is it that you want from a husband? There's part of him that still wants to be with her. And that, you know, he's gonna give it another shot, you know, because Pastor Kyle lets it be known. Y'all don't know each other. Y'all been in the same place all this time and y'all have no clue about anything about one another. Because they be watching, though they ain't helping, they watching. When you see Haley with Dr. Pepper, I think that this was a good fit for her, right? Dr. Pepper tells people the truth. And I think that Haley needed to hear everything that Dr. Pepper said. She did gather her together. When Dr. Pepper asked her, what is it about him that is good, that's working? She said he's stable and, you know, he has a great job and a house and, you know, all this surface stuff. The things that she had asked about that she wanted him to be independent, and he's all that and more as it relates to his accomplishment. She said, well, what questions do you want answered? And she said, I don't know anything about him. I asked him, like, what has he done in the last 10 years? And he doesn't have anything to say. And I want to know more. We don't have any kind of connection. And she started making that ugly face, you know, so she could start crying and shit. I've been crying I've been crying in 2 years in this last 2 months or whatever. My whole life in this last 2 months or some shit she said. But I like how Dr. Pepper pulled her card and said, listen, Jacob has made adjustments for you. And then they showed us the clothes, that he drinks more, you know, that he's trying to do the things that she wants to do. He's making an effort. What are you doing? I haven't seen you do a damn thing except for complain. And then you talking about you've been pulling teeth and it's only been one way, but I don't think so. She said to her, did you think that you were gonna get somebody that could just fit in with your lifestyle? They come in plop and they fit in with your lifestyle. It don't work like that, boo. I was like, oh, come on, Dr. Pepper, you need to come in earlier than now. We need to see and hear you. The castmates need to hear you and see what you have to say. Like, you jumping in once already and we already on episode 13 is not enough. So this is when Haley starts to cry and talks about, you know, the pressure and, you know, expectations. Her family always had high expectations, and I guess she feels like Jake is putting expectations on her. But I want to know where, how, when, because the man not putting no expectations on her. I don't care what y'all say. He just want to know, how can I get to the place so that I can be what you're looking for. So they get together and it was time to share. And I'm going to say this as an overarching thing about their conversation. This was the best conversation that I saw them have. That was actually a conversation between two people. Not one person talking at the other person or them arguing because they have a misunderstanding. They actually sat down and listened. And they might have needed Dr. Pepper. So she asked him, you know, like, you know, okay, well, what have you been doing for the past 10 years? What have you been doing? Like, I ask and you only talk about, you know, grade school or college, but nothing in the last 10 years. And so this is the information she was looking for. And maybe it was the way she was asking. Like, delivery is everything. Delivery for all of us. All of us is everything. Ask me the right way, say the right thing, and you're going to get the information that you want out of me. And what he said was, all my friends got married. So that stopped at about 33. And so from then on, from about 33 on, I've been trying to find my wife. He told you he had been dating. So what you needed to hear was, I have been dating, trying to find my wife, trying to find my match, and have had no luck. So that is what I have been doing for these last few years. Because he's 38, right? So these last 5 years. I mean, she seemed pleased with the answer and was like, oh, that makes sense. It's about what you ask. He asked her, what is the root of this Haley space? You always wanting and needing space. And she shares about that 5-year relationship back when she was in grade school. That it was controlling and she never wants to feel like that again. Don't you think that that was some shit you should have shared? Like, those are conversations that you actually have when you have pillow talk. And that is why it is so important that they be in the room together in the same bed. Because they're not in the same bed. I'm sure they went back to their respective corners in separate bedrooms. They have to be in the same bed so that the comfortability is there, so that you can have the conversations. Like, that's when these conversations had. At least I know for me, it'd be like late night pillow talk, laughing and getting to know somebody. You, even if you're not intimate, you're still in an intimate space, right? When I say intimate, I meant sexually, but you're in an intimate space, sharing space and time together. And if you're laughing and talking, voila. So, you know, he tells her that she's willing to give it another try. She kind of smiles at that, because I thought she was, the way they made it seem was like it was an attitude, but she was actually kind of gracious, grateful behind it, and they're both willing to give it a shot. Listen, maybe they'll work out. I don't know, but you know, I'm with Jacob. Should have been stopped a long time ago and just keep going, but he's attracted to her physically, so he's willing to try. That ends the review for this episode. I know it was so long. I don't know why it was so long. I thought I was gonna be able to make it 30 minutes, but I did not. Listen, let me know down below in the comments what you thought about this episode. Did you get the answers to the questions that you wanted? I know I didn't. I know I didn't. There are still a lot of unanswered questions for me that I'm hoping that we're gonna get on the reunion. Like, that's really the truth. Like, sometimes we don't get what we need until it's the reunion show. I am your girl, Talisa Ray. Thank you so much for watching my review of Married at First Sight, season number 12, episode number 13. If it is your first time visiting my channel, definitely click the subscribe button. Be part of my family, become a ray of sunshine. Click the notification bell and the one that says all, so you're alerted of the videos when I upload them, especially when I go live. You know you want to be part of my lives. Click the notification, oh I said that already. Click the like button and share this with your friends so that everybody knows that you like me and they can like me too. For my snowfall people and my ready to love people, here I come. Here I come. I promise, here I come. I love you in real life and want every good thing that God has in store for you, even if you don't know what that is for yourself. Hugs and kisses and lots of love. I'll catch you on the next review.